talk about so much, and you got it right on. You nailed it right on the head. When the fire comes and tries you,
when God
you're going to
shoves you in
see
that
what
fire,
your works are made of.
You are, brother.
And if it's wood, hay, and stubble, if it's anything other than being set on that rock, it's going to burn away. And that's what we're seeing. When you put your faith in all these things that are not Jesus Christ, when you put your faith in your works, your things that you do to be justified. I wear this. I look this way. I've now overcome the world. No. You're still eat up with the world if that's all you've done. You see, there's no transformation in that.
Right.
And so when the reality hits that, well, I'm just as carnal as anybody else, you're out.
Yeah.
Because you've realized I don't have anything here to stand on.
Right. Absolutely. And you have no other response but to respond.
But the church you're talking to, that you're dealing with, is telling you, oh, you do this, you're good.
You're right. Because they're in that same spot. Because the truth be known, and I know this is hard to swallow, but sometimes the truth is. The truth is they know that what they have, if they got pushed back in the corner or they got tried in that fire, they would respond the same way that lost man responds. And then, just like you said, justify it, because come Sunday morning, when somebody sings a song that was sung at Mama's funeral or Daddy's funeral or Uncle, Hoopty-Doopty's funeral, and I loved him, and man, I really missed him. Now, I cry a little bit when actually I'm in church, but I'm actually thinking about, Mama, Daddy, or Uncle Hoopty-Doopty, and it has nothing at all to do with God that's moving me emotionally. It's actually, and I know this may come across as harsh, but it's a lack of faith. Because if I really believe, according to Paul, he said, we don't grieve as those that have hope.
That's right.
And so we're missing it, brother.
Yes, we are.
We're missing it bad.
A lot of this, I think you see, is due to a lack of faith. It's kind of
absolutely.
It's kind of like, I have to have something from God today.
Right.
I have to have
faith
an answer
is not
today.
enough.
I have to have a feeling that God's going to give me today. If I don't have that, I'm just going to follow it. I don't know what I'm going to do. If I don't feel it, I don't know what I'm going to do. Well, did you see Paul ever say that?
Never.
Did you see Jesus ever say that? Did you see any of the apostles ever make a statement like
Absolutely
that? If I don't feel
not.
it, I'm just going to fall away. Well, you're putting your faith in something besides Jesus Christ.
Right.
This word teaches us things, and we've got to believe it. We've got to eat the whole book.
We sure do, brother.
All right? And so if we eat that book and we believe everything in it, then I don't need a sign from God.
I don't need a sign.
Jews needed a sign.
I've got it. Right here's my sign. God said it's so.
The Jews sought a sign from Jesus, and look what he said about that. I don't need a sign. God has given me everything I need right here, and if this ain't enough, then, brother, that's it.
There's not anything else coming. And well, I'm not even going to go, but you're exactly right.
And I'm not saying that God won't manifest himself in ways in your life.
Right.
At times of great distress and trouble, God is going to show up and help you through it. Just as Paul was in prison, Jesus comes and says, be of good cheer, Paul.
Yes.
I've got need you to go to Jerusalem, testify of me. He at times of need, God's going to show up. He's not going to leave us desolate. He's not saying, well, this is it, this is the word, and that's it. But what I'm saying is when we go to church every Sunday seeking for something, the Lord to fill us up with something that, is existential. Yeah. Look, this word is here to fill us up. We're to eat this word. It fills us up.
Yeah, I've got to have that little fix to get me over the hump to take me to Wednesday night. And then Wednesday night, boy, by Tuesday evening, Wednesday morning, we're ready to.
Devil's been on me all week.
Oh, it's so pitiful. I'm in such a shape.
Yeah.
If I can just push through the day and make it to church tonight, I get my fill. But you know what's funny about that? When I go back and I look at the birth, the very first thing on this earth that was presented pertaining to Christ was when the angel come to the wise men, and that angel made a statement about what I come to give you. And that angel said, good tidings of great joy, for unto you is born. Now, I'm going to break this down in terms that my simple mind can understand. That angel was saying, I'm coming to you because I'm about to present you with something that's going to produce two things for sure. It's good tidings and great joy. How often do you see great joy?
Right.
And
Well, look at Paul and Silas in the prison.
I was just thinking about that.
Yeah, I don't want to step on your toes.
By no means,
Well,
absolutely.
I mean, that's what exactly. Is that not the picture we see with Paul and Silas
Absolutely.
in the prison? At midnight, they began to sing praises to God and pray. Now, look, I don't think they were praying for deliverance or get me out of this situation in life. Why have you left me here, God? They were just saying, Lord, I just want to praise you tonight for being able to be persecuted for your name's sake.
Thank you, God, that you honored me to be able to suffer right here for you.
There's joy. When you are in a spot like that nothing in this world can move you, there's true joy.
There's joy. And we see the fruit of that in that when it was shaken and they had the opportunity to go to self-preservation,
Yeah, buddy.
they didn't choose that.
Right.
And what happened? The very first believer in the church at Philippi, we see right there in that prison.
Yeah. Him and his whole family.
And his whole family. And somehow or another we miss that.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. It's sad.
Yeah.
And probably about as sad as how easy it is for me and you to get on them rabbit holes and go down.
Boy, it is, ain't it?
Yes.
Well, I like it, though.
Well, I do too.
It's important, really.
Yes.
A lot of this stuff's important.
It's very
important to really
important.
see.
Yes, because it's it's not something that that you hear coming from believers,
Right.
and it is needed. All right, you got something?
No, sir.
All right, you got a rabbit hole you want to go because we'll go down.
I'll just follow you.
Okay. Okay. Be careful
You
there.
lead the way.
Okay. All right, verse 8. And Crispus, the chief ruler of the synagogue, believed on the Lord with all his house. And many of the Corinthians, hearing, believed and were baptized. So now, again, we're seeing the fruit of this. Paul, we're seeing this worship, and, because of that worship, may have not been in the synagogue. And that's something that, and I asked myself, and I think maybe me and you've talked about this. I wonder how often some of the things that's done in church as a way of worship. I wonder how often we do that in our living room.
That's a great question.
I mean, can I worship God? I mean, I think that it's more needful for me to worship God at home, and on the job, than it is in the sanctuary. Because when I'm in the sanctuary, I can feed off of you.
Yeah.
I mean that the Bible said that spirit would go breast to breast. I mean, I can feed off of the spirit that you possess. So I don't have to stay so focused and so spiritually minded when I'm amongst the believers.
Right.
I can kind of rest and feed off of you. But when I'm at home, when I'm out there on the job, that's when I really need that worship. That's when I really need praise.
That's right.
Again, I ask myself, and we see right here that this is not something that was, just a part of being in the synagogue, and again, you look and it says that Paul came out of the synagogue and went to this man Justus' house, and it says whose house was joined hard to the synagogue. So again, it's just like the synagogue, like a duplex, synagogue and Justus' house. And it was from his house that,
Right.
Now, if I'm seeing this right, and Crispus, the chief ruler of the synagogue, believed on the Lord with all his house, and many of the Corinthians, hearing, believed and were baptized. Now, when Paul was in the synagogue, he walked away from the synagogue and told him, he said, your blood be upon your own hands.
Exactly right.
So he had left the synagogue. This is not in the synagogue.
Right.
So,
Where is the house of the Lord? Exactly. Exactly.
I don't understand. I mean, I really don't. How often do you hear, I give my heart to God because I saw something in old brother so-and-so out there
Yeah.
that just grabbed my attention. And I said, there's something there. And Now, these are things that we're seeing here in this early church. And I mentioned this to the church, a couple of weeks ago. It's so common. I want the power that Paul had. To where you can look at the lame man and say, "Rise up," and immediately he gets up. He's got strength in his legs, or like Peter and John at the gate. That's beautiful. But that sort of thing comes at a price.
Yeah.
And that price is, I have to die. And as long as there's an ounce of the old me alive, I'm never going to get there.
Right.
And we see this. Yeah. And we're seeing it right here. Okay, you got something?
No, sir.
Okay, it's about 7 rabbit holes. I had to fight to keep from going down right there. Okay.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah. So I'm gonna try to ease on through here because we could end up down several. Okay, you got something on that?
No, sir.
All right, verse 9. Then spake the Lord to Paul in the night by a vision, Be not afraid, but speak, and hold not thy peace. For I am with thee, and no man shall set on thee to hurt thee. For I have much people in this city. So now, God just came to him and told him, don't hold back. Don't worry about it. Of course, and I know, that's another one of the things that I feel like is misrepresented. And I'm not going down that rabbit hole, but, I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm going to preach, but, and then it's always the same message and, the same 2 or 3 things that we're preaching on. And we say, well, I'm preaching on sin and, but right here we're seeing Paul was actually putting himself in a spot. Now, if we go back and we look at chapters previous to this, we see that Paul has been let down in the basket. Paul's been beat and left for dead. They brought him before the rulers and tried to get him. They wanted him killed.
Sure,
the short of it, But Paul, every time he went into a different town, he found the synagogue, just like you said. He found the spot where the Jews, the ones that wanted him dead, were gathered, and he went and he, presented the gospel. So what he's saying here, what's happening is, you think about getting persecuted once, that would be hard to recover.
Right.
But now you go through this persecution every single spot you go, time after, to the point that it's like, okay, now, Sunday, Saturday, whenever they're gathered, when I go in there, are they going to actually kill me this time? Are they going to lock me in jail?
Right.
Are they going to beat me? So that, I feel like that's why we're seeing God come to him. God's saying, listen, Paul, I've got things that I have put before you in your life that you're going to fulfill because I purposed it. So you don't hold back. You keep doing exactly what you're doing. You keep going. And remember, this is on the heels of Paul saying, your blood be upon your own hands. I think this is coming, and God's saying, you just keep doing what you're doing because there may be a little suffering. It's just me refining that piece of gold. That's all it is. But you're going to be preserved because there's people out there that needs to hear what you're going to say.
Right.
So, I feel like God just give Paul a little comfort.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. You got something?
No, sir.
And he continued, verse 11, and he continued there 1 year and 6 months teaching the word of God among them. So there we go. Paul's, okay, I'll lock down right here. I'm going to do what you called me to do.
He's spending a lot of time here. And, look back at what the Jews had just done when he went into that synagogue.
Right.
And this goes right along with what you're saying. And what was it he said there? They opposed themselves and blasphemed. So they are very much opposed to Paul here.
Yes.
And I'm sure that their very existence at this time was just centered around getting rid of Paul.
Got to get rid of him.
Taking Paul out, proving Paul wrong. And, so Paul's up against all this opposition, like you was talking about. And that's when Jesus comes to him and just shores him up a little bit.
Right.
Gives him a little gas to put in the tank.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're right. And
so he's there for 1 year and 6 months.
Right. It worked, didn't it?
Yeah.
It revived him.
Yep.
So he
sure did.
Okay, I'm going to stick around and I'm going to put a little time and effort into this. So, that's very good. You got something else?
No, sir.
All right, verse 12. And when Gallio was the deputy of Achaia, the Jews made insurrection with one accord against Paul and brought him to the judgment seat. So now here again, we're seeing now Paul, I mean, he's facing an opposition. So, it's not like that, Paul's going in and he's, preaching this and then doing this. And, it's like it's presented today that, I'm going to stand on the truth. And, I'm saying it because, there's two people in a church of, 150 that ain't jumping up and running around. So, boy, they must be opposing. I mean, this is real opposition.
Yeah.
I mean, this is actually a push that has a purpose behind it. And that purpose is to take the life of the man that's not agreeing.
Cancel culture.
Yes, indeed, brother. That's exactly right. And so that should let me and you and everybody else know just exactly how evil that need to be right can be in our life if we allow it. So, this is some pretty serious stuff here.
Yes, it is.
Okay, now in verse 13, you got something?
No, sir.
Verse 13, saying, this fellow persuadeth men to worship God contrary to the law. So they're going to Gallio, and they're telling him about Paul. This fella is, he's coming in here preaching some old crazy something that's not come from God, and that they're basically, you're not preaching the law, so it's not of God. And verse 14, when Paul was now about to open his mouth, Gallio said unto the Jews, if it were a matter of wrong or wicked lewdness, O ye Jews, reason would that I should bear with you. But if it be a question of words and names, and of your law, look ye to it, for I will be no judge of such matters. So he's basically saying, listen, if it was something that violated the Roman law that actually, was impacting me, I would be willing to hear it. But if it's something that has to do with your law and your judgment, you deal with it. And that's basically where he's going with that. You got something?
No, I'll jump in here when you get done with that.
Okay. All right. You ready to go on down another?
Yeah, go right ahead.
All right.
I'll jump in here in a few minutes.
Okay, well, you just dive right in and I'll lock her down right there. In verse 16, and he drave them from the judgment seat. So he pushed them out. He said, get out of here. Then, verse 17, then all the Greeks took Sosthenes, the chief ruler of the synagogue, and beat him before the judgment seat, and Gallio cared for none of those things. Now, is this you?
Yeah, I was just going to jump in here. I mean, you look at Gallio here, who he is, the deputy of Achaia. Now, we got to understand what Achaia is. This is the lower portion of Greece. All right, so you've got Greece that's divided into two portions, Macedonia, the upper. Achaia is the lower, which is where the church of Corinth and the city of Corinth abide.
Right.
In this whole region. So you've got half of Greece that this guy's basically over and dealing with. So, his plate's pretty full.
Yeah.
And so the last thing he wants to hear from is these Jews talking about some guy that's talking about their religion in a bad way.
Yeah.
Oh, whoop-de-doo.
Yeah,
That's
right.
basically
Because they
what he's
didn't care really too much about religion.
Basically, he's saying, well, he's not violated, like you said, Roman law, so whoop-de-doo. We don't care. And what I find very interesting here is that the guys that actually brought Paul to judgment, actually judgment was handed down on them.
Yeah, right.
And I'll bet you Paul got a little bit of laugh.
Oh, well, I'm sure.
That.
Yeah, because they get a hold of it.
Yeah, so this Sosthenes guy, he's the chief ruler of the synagogue. So he's the one probably behind most of the issues here.
Yes,
he's the one that's causing all the trouble. And he finds himself is the one getting beat and getting pronounced judgment upon. And so, well, and
pretty
interesting.
It is interesting, and you bring that out. Now, if you go back and look at verse 9 and 10, when the Lord spoke to Paul, I mean, we see right here. Okay, I'll show you. The very opposition. Yeah, I can actually take and take care of even in the face of him trying to destroy you, I
Right.
can turn the tide and get him out of
That's
the way.
kind of like a little gift from God, I think.
Yes,
to Paul
yes,
saying,
that's sort of what I gathered.
Vengeance is mine, saith
Yes,
the Lord.
there you
I'll
go.
take care of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And and that's sort of what I gathered from that
Yeah,
too.
yeah, you're exactly right. I think that's a
he's
good lesson right
yeah,
there.
I told you, Paul, I'd watch out for you. Now stand back and see my salvation. Here it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got something else?
No, sir.
That's good. All right, verse 18. And Paul, after this, tarried there yet a good while, and then took his leave of the brethren, and sailed thence into Syria, and with him Priscilla and Aquila, having shorn his head in Cenchrea, for he had a vow. So now, again, and we see, now, even after this, Paul still tarried there for a while. Which kind of leads me to go back to what we were talking about. God took care of the opposition, so it's like Paul saying, okay, the Lord spoke to me and told me not to worry, to stay. Okay, now I see my problem present itself. It was took care of, so he kind of locked down and stayed. Then him, Priscilla, and Aquila get together, and now they're selling out and they're going on a journey. And then, of course, it says, and Paul shaved his head because of a vow. Of course, and I'm not going to get into another rabbit hole, but I am going to ask a question. Now, some of the things that we've talked about away from the camera, and the hair, and shaving and shorn, and
Right.
do you think that there may have been anything tied in, and I don't know, I'm just asking, tied in with this, or if there was something about the hair, and again, and we've talked about this, and I'm going to try to get this out without delving a whole lot and really taking us down this rabbit hole. But with some of the things that we've discussed with the hair and how that kind of pertained to certain situations. Now we do know that he was at Corinth. So we know what he wrote back to that church at Corinth.
Right.
So now they've left, and then they're beginning to say, but it says Paul shaved his head for a vow, which kind of leads me to think, what are we missing about the authority or the power in this hair thing that we're seeing it again right here? And again, I'm not going to dive down that rabbit hole, but I do think that you're trekking right behind that coon. Now, I mean, he's just looking for the tree right now to go up. So, and again, and then I'll let you, if you want to take off, you can with it. But that just stood out to me.
Well, I think a lot of this hair stuff that we see, and I think the passage you're referring to is 1 Corinthians chapter 11.
Yes.
When Paul gets into the head coverings and the hair, and he makes certain statements about nature itself, telling you that a man with long hair is a shame.
Right.
And that's where we get a lot of our ideas that, well, a man's got long hair, he's in sin, and he shouldn't be. But I don't really think that's what Paul's saying there, and because of something that you brought out, I really had never noticed in that, but he says, the church of God have no such law.
Right.
I may be paraphrasing there something, but basically he's saying...
That is what he said, yeah.
Basically, we don't have a law against long hair. It's something to do with nature. And so it goes down to a belief system that was an old belief in the function of the hair. And I won't get too deep into that because, that's a long rabbit hole.
That is
But anyway, it's what it comes down to is there's something culturally sensitive in all this that we're going to miss because we're 2,000 years disconnected from that society. And I really believe that this hair thing had to do with certain beliefs in that day that was handed down through generation after generation that believed that the hair had something to do with reproduction.
Yeah.
Okay, and if you got that in mind when you read that, you begin to see why Paul's saying certain things about that that makes a lot of sense now.
Yes.
That had no way of making sense before.
Right.
And so I'm with you. Yeah, there's a lot of misconception, I think, about that because of that cultural disconnect.
Right, yes. Well, and
maybe one day we'll get into that.
Yeah. Well, and if we've got plenty of time.
Well, if we do Corinthians, we'll get into
Yeah.
that.
Well, and you know, I mean, to me, there has to be some sort of tie in with, and of course, and I had never picked up on it, and you brought all of that to my attention, and then when I got to kind of looking, I thought, wow,
Starts making sense.
it does.
Yeah.
But now, to me, it's not a coincidence that Paul was leaving Corinth, and there's something with him shaving his head that he's tying to a vow that he's made to God. Because, I mean, you know, it's there with that. Mm-hmm. So, you know, and again, it's Corinthians, you know, where he mentions all this. So, I'm with you.
Yeah.
There's something that's culturally sensitive to this time that we don't know that we're seeing right here coming from Corinth.
Well, you know, we see other examples of cultural disconnects. Like, you know, a lot of times Paul will end a letter and say, "Greet the brethren with a holy kiss," or
Right.
something to that effect.
Right.
And I mean, nobody's going to do that today. I mean, unless, I mean, if you go in with
Yeah.
you're going to be
Just
considered
look at me like I'm backslidder or sinner.
some
Don't give me a
type of-
kiss.
Yeah, some type
Right.
of degenerate or something. But in that day, that was,
It was very
something
common.
very common. And
Yes.
so, you know, there you go again with another cultural disconnect you have to recognize as
Right.
reality.
It is, brother. You know, and I think a lot of times we're just way too quick to jump on a boat and say, okay, you know, this is what the Scripture says.
We have to realize that this is not written to me or you or
Right.
us. This is written to, you know, what we're talking about there is written to the Church of Corinth.
Mm-hmm.
And so he had them in mind when he's
Right.
writing this, not
Right.
us.
Right.
Now, we benefit from it,
Sure,
of course,
absolutely.
by
Absolutely.
you know, we reap the benefits of the words, but we got to understand that there's 2,000
Right.
years apart.
Exactly. You know, not just locked down.
Well, yeah, I mean, the overall picture of it all is certainly prevalent to us today, and it's necessary.
Yeah.
And in our
Right.
understanding of the
Absolutely.
gospel,
Absolutely.
it's absolutely necessary. But we have to recognize that there are certain things that,
Yes.
you know, we're not going to live in viewing these scriptures from 20th century or 21st century eyes is going to be much different than
Yeah.
the way they're going to view it in the first century.
The first century, right? Yeah. And I agree, and that's kind of why that you know I brought that out because they it kind of stood out to
Yeah,
me.
there's certain passages in here that's very difficult for us to really get our head around, and it's because of that.
Yeah.
And you know, when Paul's writing this, he has full intent that those who would read this would have no trouble
Right.
understanding what this means.
Yes, they would know exactly.
And so,
That's exactly right, and it's a very good point.
and that's
you-
why we have to be careful on those passages and not try to import our own
Yes.
21st century views in
absolutely,
there.
absolutely, and
Because we're going to derail when we do
yeah,
that.
and most of the time it's not just us, but we end up reaching and grabbing as many as we can
That's
on our
right.
way and
right.
derail them too.
That's right.
So yeah, and that's a very good point. And yeah, you've really opened my eyes up to a lot of that when you got to mentioning some of that.
Well, I mean, this stuff's not unique to me. I picked it up other places, but you know, I just honed in on it because, man, now I understand what that means.
Right.
You know, and
Right.
that's a pretty good explanation for that.
it is.
You know,
It is.
so it's not that I'm like super smart. It's just that I'm paying attention to what some folks are. You know,
Well, I guess that all depends on your comparison for where you get super smart. I mean, you're sitting beside an individual that probably makes you look like a genius.
no, sir.
But
No, sir, quite the opposite.
I look forward to getting into some of that because you have I mean, you spend enough time to you've got a pretty good grasp.
Well, it
on them.
interests me.
It does.
I mean, it's really the only thing that interests me. I mean,
yeah, and when you start seeing it,
and people want to give me books, you know, that certain authors wrote, and I'm sure they're good books, but man, my heart's just not there.
No.
If I'm spending time in that book, I feel like I'm robbing myself
right?
of this book.
Yes, and
So-
this one has life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I'm glad you feel that way because you've helped me with a whole lot of stuff, and
Amen.
I think anybody that would watch this, if they could get what we're actually talking about, they would agree that that's very good stuff that you've pulled out. So I just wanted to bring that out.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good. That's very good.
Yeah. You got something else?
No, sir.
All right. Verse